And tiếp theo và chúng ta sẽ tới phiên là Blockchain Infrastructure for Real World Application, là tính liên chuỗi về nền tảng blockchain có thể được ứng dụng rộng rãi trong thực tiễn. Next, we have the panel Blockchain Infrastructure for Real World Application. Interoperability is the foundation for blockchain to achieve real world adoption. Xin trân trọng giới thiệu các diễn giả là ông Will Ross, Charles Bachandi, Sonny Mohanty, Brian Wu và điều phối Dominic Cox. Please welcome our panelists, Will Ross, Charles Bachandi, Sonny Mohanty, Brian Wu, and Moderator Dominic Cox.
Great. Thank you everyone for joining us on this panel. As it was introduced, we'll be talking about building blockchain for real-world applications with a sub-focus on cross-chain. But first of all, I'd like to introduce all of my panelists today, or let them introduce themselves, but Brian, and then we can go left to right.
Yeah, good afternoon everyone. My name is Brian, the CTO of ARO Network. Yeah, ARO Network is a decentralized edge cloud infrastructure that deploy all over the world.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone in Vietnam. It's great to be here. My name is Sonny Mohanty. So I represent XDC Network. XDC Network is an EVM compatible layer 1 chain. And I'm their head of venture and ecosystem development. So what I do, I help build the ecosystem for XDC Network. I'm very glad that we are one of the bronze sponsors of ETH Vietnam. And this is my maybe 10th time coming to Vietnam, and always as excited to be here. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thanks a lot for having me here. It's really exciting to be in Vietnam, always. Xin chào everyone. I'm the head of developer relations at Pharos, and we are building an ultra-fast layer 1 blockchain. We are building for real-world applications, which compiles with enterprises, institutions, and a lot more. So happy to talk more about on that moving forward.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Will. I'm the Chief Marketing and Distribution Officer at Dragon Capital. We're Vietnam's largest asset manager. So I got to say, I've got massive imposter syndrome up here. So please be gentle with me, all of you. But I'm here as the voice of TradFi. And I think as you talk through technical solutions, I'll be able to contribute what institutional money. And indeed, we represent sovereign wealth funds and family offices and funds of funds globally. Well, we are looking for the deployment of that as we see the burgeoning of real-world assets.
Perfect. What a panel. I'd start off quite broad. So just, if we can go across the panel, define, when we say real-world application of blockchain, what that means, and potentially a couple of use cases with a focus on cross-chain, if possible. I know it's a big ask. Brian, maybe start again, go left to right.
Yeah, to me, the real-world applications of blockchain means, the seamless integration and bridge of the tamper-proof and verifiable technology in the blockchain with the off-chain and the physical infrastructure that's to deliver the measurable value. And this kind of applications that directly interacts with the real-world access, the physical devices, and also the real economy activities. Something like the utilities in logistics, supply chain, energy, networking, and even the governance. And so a good example that for use case is that what we are building now in the ARO Network. Even in ARO Network, we are building the decentralized edge infrastructure that powers the real-time applications. For example, the streaming video delivery and the edge AI workloads. And we are we are already operating over 1.5 million devices globally. We are now building the protocol that's to connect and orchestrate millions of devices, like the routers and personal computers and the set-top boxes at home. And then we utilize the blockchains to do the on-chain verification, settlement, and the trusted on-chain workload for those heterogeneous edge nodes. And in terms of the cross-chain, And we build our settlement layers and the marketplace layer in multi-chain that allows our user, the edge node miners, to claim rewards in different chains, and also the edge node resource users to purchase the resource in different chains as well. So this is a multi-chain approach that can let our users and partners to choose the best network that can fit their like business or requirements or costs or maybe compliance needs. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. I would like to just keep it like very simple. Real world, right? Applications. So I started my career in the space when it was not Web3 back in 2018, right? So through the years, I've heard this is just hype. Blockchain is nothing just hype. There are no real world applications, right? That's where it all started off. And I think things can still be built and done without a blockchain. I mean, why do you need blockchain, right? So these were the time that I have seen. So today I can very proudly say and demonstrate that there is a real world application in the payment space. If you guys remember, like when Bitcoin was discovered, it was mostly discovered for cross-border payment. Obviously, we know the pain points of sending money cross-border, especially if you're sending money from Vietnam to US and vice versa. The cost hurts, right? So the whole idea of having a cryptocurrency or a Bitcoin is to solve that pain point. So XDC Network, right? We also have our own native coin called XDC. It's very liquid. It's listed on several exchanges all over the world, in Thailand, Singapore, US as well. We're just closing off with Kraken. If you know Kraken, one of the largest exchanges in the world. We closed Binance US. So the native coin is now listed on this MasterCard. I had to bring this up to show a real world application. I was just talking to the moderator. I mean, yes, Dominic, just before we started this panel. So this is a MasterCard, right? So you can actually top up using XDC coin, which is basically, if you know Ethereum, I mean, obviously it's a ETH Vietnam. So XDC, you can top up using XDC coin, and you can use to buy groceries or anything you like to buy with a tap. Yes, as simple as that. So this is what called a real world application of a crypto. So a crypto gets off-ramped into a currency of your country. If it's Vietnam, it's Vietnam dong. I live in Singapore, it's Singapore dollars. Nobody knows. The merchant doesn't know. I don't get to know. I just top up with XTC and pay my groceries. As simple as that. Thank you.
Interesting thoughts from all the fellow panelists. But for me, it's quite a very much different approach when I talk about real world applications or real world assets. Firstly, we need to stop thinking just till the asset level. We need to go beyond the operations level and how things are operating in the real world. And we need to provide an infra that is actually still capable of delivering what's the speeds and finalities we see in the Web2 space. Everyone was reluctant to go into the Web3 space because of one single reason, which was infra. When we talk about Ethereum, when we talk about Solana, they were not able to match to the industry level performance whenever we talk about it. That's why like industries and even governments and regulations are reluctant to do that. And that's why we went back to our drawing boards and designed an infra or a blockchain that is very much powered with the current infra of Visa, MasterCard, and other players in the market when we talk about the storage layers like AWS and Google Cloud. So you can get all the same experience that you get to get on the off-chain level. Because right now, like we are still reliant on the Visa and MasterCard network. But what happens if we bring all these operations on chain? Like we don't need to rely on the Swift payment channel. Currently, all the payment operations happen on Swift payment channel. But if we bring them on chain, that's the real adoption that I'm talking about. And we always see that these things are going to happen because like telecom industries, FMCG industries are always eager to get into the Web3 space. They're just looking for a right partner. And that's what we are building. We are building with clients, we are building with institutions, enterprises to make their lives easier and operations much more smoother in the Web3 space.
I think maybe this sounds like a word game, But rather than just starting with real-world applications, let's think about real-world applicability. Something that actually matters to you, to me, to everyone as you go for a walk around the streets of Saigon. And welcome, everybody. I hope you enjoy your stay. You go around the streets from Saigon, what will you see very quickly? You'll see that there's a lot of half-finished buildings. So many. Property prices are insane. They make no sense, and yet there's half-finished buildings. Why? Problems with the property registry, clarity over title, uncertainty over liens, yada, yada, yada. A very simple problem that the application of blockchain just at the registry level could begin to solve. And if we talk about real-world applicability, it's not about solutioning in a vacuum. It's about a real-world value chain so that one can go from the property register through the sale to the consumer, to the buyer of the property, to potentially the tenant, where each of those flows have different layers of information that's captured, information that requires transfer, and where solutioning can be turned into smart contracts in a way that improves with real applicability to what we have today. And I think this is where I'd invite, listen, payments, phenomenal, fundamental, right? This is the basic financial behavior we have in life. But how do we layer that up? That's the question. Again, go for another walk. You'll see lots of pharmacies, healthcare, portability of healthcare records, being able to go between private and public healthcare providers and have access to common set information that you, as the patient, owns. Heart of Web 3. What more important set of data for you to own than the data about your health? And have the ability to port that into different value chains for providers with confidence. So again, these are the things that I would say, and again, I look at these things simply, is that it's the ultimate utility of the application, not the elegance of the solution. That's the unfortunate thing. As we know, sometimes elegant solutions fail because it's the utility of the application that determines the adoption and the willingness of partners to contribute to, again, a broader value chain that at its best is end-to-end, multiple layers of solution that apply blockchain to address their specific problems.
So building on that, my next question was to Janess, actually, and it kind of talks to what you just mentioned. You mentioned a very beautiful utopian future with blockchain. So what's holding enterprises back? When you have conversations with enterprises in supply chain, in healthcare, what's holding them back from just fully embracing blockchain?
Well, that's actually a very good question that you asked, because like when I talk to all the FMCG's partners in the space who are handling a revenue of more than billions per year, they mentioned that they cannot track after the product is gone from the manufacturing plant to the user. They cannot even track the whole pipeline. So they cannot control it. So there are a lot of gray market activities happening. A lot of distributors are playing the dirty game of moving the products here and there. Like if a product is supposed to be in Thailand, it is being tracked in Singapore. And they don't have any way to track all these things. And they wanted to do it on chain. A lot of players in the market try to work on it. We talk about Algorand that came years ago to do all these things, and other players as well. But what they lack was, firstly, the adoption in their technology. They were not EVM compatible. Secondly, the overall infra, it's pretty much low in terms of finality. But in FMCG, in any other telecom sector or any other sector, we always need the fastest finality, like sub-second finality. And our current blockchain infra, if we talk about oracles, all the data pipelines are pretty much compatible to that. But when I talk to all these infra partners, they say when we work with blockchains, we have no benefit of having a sub-second latency because a block time usually takes 5 to 6 seconds, which is pretty much slow. So what to do? So that's why we went back, as I mentioned, we went back to our drawing boards, designed the whole complete architecture with newer consensus and virtual machines so that it can be compiled with the current infrastructure needs and people can easily walk in. And when I presented all these solutions to all the partners, they were very keen on exploring and working with us. And that's what I feel that it's going to be the future, where we're going to provide the speeds of Visa, MasterCard, AWS, and Google Cloud, where they just don't have to feel that they are having blockchain on their faces like you use right now, but as an underlying technology that nobody even cares about.
And Brian, I wanted to potentially bring you in here from a deep-in perspective. A lot of deep-in projects are working hand in hand with traditional projects, whether it's in the communication space or in mapping. So how do you get them to understand or to work with you in Deepin and understand the value which Deepin can bring to those traditional areas?
In terms of the cross-chain support, right? So actually, I think it's not just important for the Deepin, but also inevitable that if we want to move pilot program to a truly global and production-grade applications. And so the reason is simple because the Deepin infrastructure doesn't live on only one chain. Let's see that the edge device actually deploy millions of locations all over the world. And that's, let's say the routers in Vietnam and the microservers in Europe and the set-top boxes in North America. So each geography and each region will have different constraints. Let's say that's the different regulation needs, different fee structures, and different user base with the different preferred networks. So if we lock the solutions, the settlement layers into one single chain, then we are actually forcing the users into one environment, which may increase the friction. And so maybe we were losing the users there without their support. And so in our networks, we build the settlement layer actually to support the multi-chain from the ground up. So our settlement layers can actually operate across the multiple chains like the Ethereum mainnet and the layer 2s. Also, we can have the abstraction layers to extend to the like non-EVM chains like Solana and the Sway. And so that, let's say, for example, an off-chain work done in Vietnam that we can do the settlement and the claim rewards on a low-gas chain, but we can do the enterprise contract finalized on the Ethereum mainnet, which for the high liquidity and the institutional cost. And so in terms of the messaging layers, I think right now, like the layer 0 and the wormhole, they already provide many best infrastructure in the world to do the token transfers cross-chain. But actually that's not enough for the ping because the ping is not just the tokens. We actually need to verify the data that passes through the message. So that's why the verification process is as important as the message passing itself. And for the shared security model, that we can rely on something like the Icon Clouds to develop the custom active validated service. We can utilize this AVS service to not only relate the proofs, but also to do verify the node performance, also do the selection if the node is not performing well. And so that's in terms of this messaging layer and the shared security model, we can see that I think it's already quite mature for the token transfers. But for the ping, I think there's still some way to go. The key is to combine the messaging with the verification computation and the selection back solutions. Okay, yeah, that's it.
And on the point of cross-chain and token swap and moving between tokens and chains, RWAs has become a major talking point for real-world application of blockchain. And every day I'm seeing real estate in Dubai being tokenized, equities in the US, even durian fruit in Thailand, durian farms. So the liquidity aspect is potentially a hindrance, but I wanted to bring you in, Sonny, on this one, just to talk about RWAs, where they are now, where you see them going, and if we can see those pilot projects that I mentioned turning into mainstream asset classes and tradable assets in the near future, and what we need to unleash that.
Yeah, I think that's a very relevant question for XDC Network because those of you know XDC Network, like we are the go-to chain for real-world asset tokenization and trade financing. Coming to your question about real-world tokenization, so as I said, I am the head of ecosystem development. So we started off running these programs called acceleration programs last year, and we launched it in Singapore, right, in partnership with Tenity. So I saw a lot of good use cases that we managed to scout through these programs. These projects were fractionalizing real-world assets like expensive watches to start with, and I see they have customer base as well. There are people, there are shops, there are real companies who are actually willing to tokenize real-world assets like for watches, expensive assets to make it accessible to everyone, because not everybody can have an access to a very expensive watch. But if you tokenize that, fractionalize that on a blockchain, then you make it liquid. That illiquid market becomes illiquid. That's just an example to start with. Coming over to real estate, as we all know, real estate tokenization has been in the news for a very long time. This is not a new concept. Like when I used to travel to Dubai like a couple of years back, people back then were talking about tokenizing all the buildings, all the big buildings, Amar and all the stuff in Dubai, but I didn't see any use cases. It was all people talking about it. But today I can say that out of the cohort that we have shortlisted the projects to build on the XDC chain, we have a project called Riser out of India. So now they are tokenizing real estate. So you can actually buy and sell real estate as easily as trading stocks starting at $100. So they are regulated sandbox by Qatar Financial Center. So it's as simple as that. So today we have a real use case built on XDC Network. If you want more information, feel free to reach out to me. I can give their details, and they are doing fantastically well and only growing from there. Thank you.
And Will, maybe I can bring you in on this one as well. From a family office, institutional perspective, what real-world assets are currently being explored as potential investment opportunities, and which ones are currently being invested in by family offices, institutions, etc.?
Look, I think the challenge, and this has already been touched on, is innovation theater. A lot of people talking a lot of great ideas, which have very little chance of being subscribed to or scaled. In the institutional space, where the intersection is between TradFi and DeFi is in brands. All right, if you look at the most successful application, and it's not even a tokenization, it's just an access, it's BlackRock's ETFs. Why is that? That is for institutions who are either unable or unwilling to deal with the custody layer of owning digital assets in their own right. They're giving an on-ramp. Beyond that, where are we seeing native projects that are being bought at scale? It's pretty thin. It's more nodes rather than networks. So localized situations like property in Dubai, it's been attempted with property here. It's been attempted, but how much it's actually scaled, how much it's brought in liquidity beyond what would be already otherwise available is not great. The thing you've got to remember about institutions is the three big I's. Always remember this. When you're thinking about how institutions make decisions, they will be driven by ignorance, insecurity, and inertia. Ignorance, they probably don't have the full picture, so they're going to go with what they see the most. Hence the follow the leader behavior of buying Bitcoin and ETF. Inertia, companies don't like to change. They have all sorts of approvals already in place. You need to give them something that has an application now, not in the future, to move them. And then insecurity, very few institutions make decisions out of conviction. It's mostly what they worry about, like opportunity cost. And the reality is that most of the money that we see being mobilized into the digital asset space today is out of insecurity, where people are worried about opportunity cost rather than conviction about the types of building that they want to support through buying those coins. So it's a transition point.
Yeah. But stable coins, for example, and institutional investment in stable coins, do you see that being, I know there's lots of mentions of those institutions then creating their own stable coins. Do you see this as a positive thing or potential fragmentation of this space?
Sure, look, gang, I'm up here as a true believer, right? I don't have the tools. I admire all of you for your technical elegance, but I'm here because I believe and I support. I'm an ex-securitization banker. Everything that blew us up in 2008, I remain very, very sorry, right? I grew up in an age where financial innovation was securitization, and that inspired the hell out of me in the 90s. And when I intersect with you at events like this, pardon my language, I'm fucking blown away by just how much is possible. But what I do know is where securitization went wrong, which is when it lost utility and just became about yield farming through financial engineering. And that's the challenge here, right? How to take something that is so genuinely exciting and scale it in a way that is sustainable and creates utility across the value chain. And you're right, stable coins are an application that at a first layer are a phenomenal application and indeed super popular here in Vietnam. But what happens when you, as you say, the moral hazard comes in and an institution looks to repackage? Then you run into the issues around liquidity, transparency, suitability that plagued securitization. But again, layer one, a great opportunity.
So we have 5 minutes left. So I'd like to try wrap it up and just give you the opportunity to talk about what you're most excited about for the next 12 to 18 months with relation to real-world application of blockchain.
Yeah, to me, actually, I'm not looking at the question in the point of a technical infrastructure point of view. Actually, we are seeing the growth. The blockchain ETF is launching globally, and actually, the United States Stablecoin Act is already effective, right? And actually, this actually will accelerate the entry of the traditional finance capital and also the traditional grades Web2 companies. This is actually not short-term changes, but also it has a profound impact on the whole blockchain industry. And so actually that will make the blockchain more regulated, more compliant, and actually more mature. So in the point of, as this trend is evolving, then we can see the truly valuable projects and products which solve the real problems and deliver the real utilities will be, survive in the long term. So that, that's when we can start to see more and more production-grade, ready real applications with massive adoption that emerging in the market.
Yeah, so I'm actually pretty much excited about stable coins, to be honest. Personally, I'm a user of stable coins. And it's a big news for us as well. Just want to break it out to the audience that we are natively launching USDC on the XDC network. So soon you'll be, it's going to be on the press. But yeah, we've closed that deal. So I'm pretty much excited about this collaboration with Circle USDC because they are one of the very transparent player in the space of stable coins in terms of reserves. And my personal belief is stable coins are going to be the future. I think the banks are going to issue their own stable coins as well because they do understand the benefits of settling using a stable coin rather than having the correspondent banks and multiple banks in between for settling payments. So I'm pretty much excited about the future of stable coins, and yeah, let's see where it goes to. I'm pretty bullish about that. Thank you.
Yeah, and from my perspective, it's going to be around like how much traditional economy we can bring on chain, not just assets, but overall economy, and how much easier we can make it the life for, not for the enterprises and institutions to run their infra, but for users to know and learn about it and use it without even getting to know about it. Like legal documents, like bringing property papers, like as my friend was mentioning, and even in my morning session, I mentioned that we need legal documents. Like if my mother wants to give her the property papers, she had to give me the physical paper back, and a JPEG or a PNG cannot work. That's why I believe like physical copies are gonna die, and they are gonna come on chain with NFTs. Similarly, like recently I was reading about like a guy lost his passport in Europe. He was an Indian guy, and he got very scared about it. If we had like in the previous panel, we were discussing about ZK and IDs. If we can bring ZK IDs and blockchains all together, we can probably solve these kind of problems where the guy has to run to the embassy, get a temporary passport and do all the hassle. I think we can skip that with a blockchain infra, and that's what it's built for.
Okay, I admit up front the irony of having a Canadian guy delivering the message on behalf of Vietnam, but we're here at a very symbolic place. The gates out in front of the palace, the image of the tanks crashing through them is the official end of the war. We're 50 years since reunification, and Vietnam right now is launching its most significant set of reforms since the ones of 1986 that changed the country to a market economy. So many layers of the operation of government, of society, of business are being sought to be transformed. And what excites me is the idea of seeing all of you, such a diverse audience, coming here to Vietnam, and hopefully you having an opportunity to interact with local regulators, local businesses, or local builders, and think about how your solutioning can be applied. Because the wind that is in the sails of that transformation, and let's be realistic, tech globally, there's no greater procurer of tech or scaler of tech than government applications, unfortunately often in a military capability. But here in the pursuit of civil society and economic growth, there's such an incredible opportunity right now for you to layer in your solutions to help us address real world problems in Vietnam. So thank you for coming to see us.
Thank you, guys. That about wraps up our time. We've covered everything from healthcare, stablecoins, finance, everything, deep in. If you have any questions about what was discussed, come to any of the panelists outside. I'm sure they'd be happy to do it. So from us, thank you, and keep building.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Xin cảm ơn các diễn giả và điều phối viên của phiên vừa rồi vừa có những chia sẻ thật là xuất sắc. Thank you to speaker and moderator for previous panel for their valuable insights.